welcome to Out of the Box Radio with me, your host, Christine Blasdale. Out of the Box Radio is a weekly podcast of audible ear candy dedicated to bringing a fresh perspective on this thing that we call life. And each and every week, we're going to be diving into the topics that matter most with lively conversations on issues such as health, wellness, and transformational healing, all with the goal of creating a better world and becoming a happier human being. I will be your tour guide for this epic adventure, and each and every week we're going to be embarking on a journey with the ultimate goal being transformation to our highest potential. And now, let's get out of the box. Welcome back to Out of the Box Radio. I'm your host, Christine Blasdale, and I'm so very happy that you tuned in today. It is going to be a very special program full of surprises and a discussion on a brand new book that's come out that I know you're going to want to read. It's by my next guest, who is Anna Raimondi, and she is a grief counselor, a spiritual advisor, and medium with a very large following. She's a motivational speaker. She's a motivational speaker, teacher, intuitive, and her latest book is called Conversations with Mary, Messages of Love, Healing, Hope, and Unity for Everyone, which is an incredible title, I must say, Anna. I want to welcome you first, though, to the program Out of the Box Radio. Welcome to our new listeners.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I'm very excited to be speaking with you.
Well, I'm of course, the title alone of your new book, Conversations with Mary, Messages of Love, Healing, Hope, and Unity for Everyone. That's what, this program is about, thinking outside of the box, bringing people who have words of hope and, of course, unity and transformation. And so when word of this came across my desk, when I saw it, I got an instant hit. I am somewhat intuitive. I guess we all are intuitive, as you may know. But I got a really strong hit on this to have you on the program, because I think a lot of people are going to gain a lot from hearing you, and also, of course, eventually reading the book. Can you let our listeners know a little bit about how you got to where you are right now? I know that's a long story, but my understanding is at the age of 5, something very special happened to you. Do you mind letting our listeners know what that was?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a born medium, so I have been seeing, feeling, communicating with those on the other side my entire life. And I was very fortunate because my parents accepted it. I remember the first time Mary came to me. I was 5 years old. I lived on Long Island, which is a suburb of New York. And it was a spring day. I think it was like one of the first spring days. I was just very happy to be outside. And I was all by myself, and I was outside in the backyard. I could hear the music coming from the house as my mother was cleaning. And it was just one of those magical days where I smelled the grass, I heard the birds, and I was just so happy. And in the backyard, there was a very small little grotto that a statue of Mary used to sit in. I never saw that statue. It was probably broken before my parents even bought the house. And I was small, and I kind of squeezed myself into that space as a place to sit. And I just remember just being like, just peaceful. And then I felt something. It felt like a blanket was being thrown around me. I couldn't move, but I didn't want to move. Mm-hmm. It was the best I can describe it. It's what real, absolute love feels like. I didn't want to move. I was kind of sitting there. I wasn't afraid. And then I saw her. And, unlike the depictions we see of Mary, she didn't look like that. She looked like a young girl. She had long, dark brown hair that hung to her waist. She had on rough clothing held together with a belt, and big brown eyes. And she looked at me, and I immediately looked at her and felt, I like this person. I love this person. And she looked at me and said, I will be with you always. And that's all she said. And then, it went away. But I remember it like it was yesterday. And she has been with me through the ups and the downs my entire life.
And this book now from my understanding, and let's let our listeners know too what a medium does. Does Mary? So Mary speaks through you. Yeah, so she communicates directly with you and about, of course, things that are going through with your life, but also, I would guess, on some of the people that you work with, the people that have you as their counselor, as their therapist. She also helps them as well through you?
Absolutely, as well as do their own, the people in their lives who have passed. She just, she allows them through to me, and she helps them on a different level. She's always around me, as are my own spirit guides. So as a medium, I communicate with those on the other side. My purpose is to bring through healing for these people so that they're able to navigate their life's journey in a healthy and happy way. Life isn't so easy.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And from my understanding too, with this book, of course, Mary speaks to all of God's children, right? It
Mhm.
doesn't matter if you're Catholic or if you're Jewish, or that she
Correct.
is available to all. Now, when you said now, because I know in your mind's eye too, at age 5, I know things that have happened to us as children stay with us, and we can remember the smell of things, the taste.
Right.
If you don't mind, because I just find this very interesting, and I know it's probably the least important aspect, but when you described what she looked like, can you go in a little bit more detail so that we can get a picture of what Mary presented herself to you as?
Well, she was small, petite. She had dark skin, so she didn't have that alabaster white and the blue eyes that,
Mm-hmm.
artists have painted of her. She had darker skin. She had big brown eyes, petite. I don't. She was pretty, but beyond being pretty, she was a kind of exotic a little bit, like her facial features. But more than that, it was the way she felt to me.
Yeah. Right.
She was kind. She was compassionate. She didn't scare me. There was none of this. Like in my face. She was gentle with me, even though she only said, a few words to me at that time. I felt her gentleness. So she came through me with just this kind, kind of what a mother, we all aspire. I mean, I'm a mother. I'm not so my kids would, describe me as being gentle, but I try. Kind of, we kind of like, she wasn't in my face, she came through. That's what she wanted to say. And it lingered, it lingered. You're right. I mean, this is one of the things that, I could never forget. And she also smelled, like she smelled very sweetly, like when people say they smell roses,
Mm-hmm.
when they pray, with Mary. She had that very floral, rosy smell, and it wasn't from the flowers that were in my parents' garden. It was what she brought forward.
Right. And now that was when you were at the age of 5. Let our listeners know from that point, where did you go? I mean, with this information, or did you tell anybody? Did you feel comfortable about telling anybody, or did you just kind of keep it to yourself?
No, I went in the house afterwards. I don't know if this lasted 3 minutes or an hour.
Right.
I have
Right.
no idea. I have no concept of how long it lasted, but it was still light out. And I went in the house, and my mother was sitting at the kitchen table, going through a magazine and smoking a cigarette. And I said to her, "I just saw Mary in the backyard." And she looked at me and she said, "Mary who?" And I said, "Mary, the Mary from church."
Uh-huh.
And she said, "Oh, did she say anything?" So I told her, and she said, "Oh, okay." My parents were so used to me saying things to them and they never denied what I was saying. They never said, "You're a crazy kid," none of that. She said, "Okay." And it was really never spoken about again. So, they knew that she was coming to me, so I must have said things over the years like, "Oh, that's my Mary." But the things, she was doing with me, she was my Mary. Okay. She didn't belong to anybody else. She belonged to me.
Right.
So if a message came through to her, through me from her, yes, I would definitely say it, but she was mine. Most of the messages that I was getting up until the point of, almost writing this book were really for me. Once, I went on a trip to Medjugorje where Mary has been appearing for 36 years. And one of the last visionaries who's seeing her once a month I actually I was able to stay in her house, which is another story for another day.
Wow.
But I came home from that trip and I had gone with 6 women that I'm close with, and everybody got something, who was able to get a healing and who got a different perspective on their life and all different things. I got nothing. I felt her there, absolutely, but got nothing. And when I came home, I was sitting in my backyard, and I was talking and praying the way I pray. And I said, I don't understand, Mary. Like, why did I have to go there? And loud and clear, I heard, you will be my platform. And so I said, okay, if that's what's to be, you got me. And little did I know, 2 weeks later, someone from Simon and Schuster came to my office for a reading. And at the end of the reading, she said to me, I think you need to write a book about Mary. And I said, okay. And she said, can you get me a proposal? And I said,
Wow.
okay. Didn't even know what a proposal was. So it took a couple of, weeks to figure out what that was. Got her a proposal. They called me in shortly thereafter. I met the publisher and the associate publisher. And then a week later, I met the CEO of Simon and Schuster, and I had a book deal. So I had a book deal in less than 2 months. So, it was totally orchestrated by heaven. It was totally orchestrated by Mary. This book had to get out there, had to be, read by people. And so people recognize that there are no boundaries between us, that we shouldn't be erecting boundaries, and that we are creatures of the great creator that is a vibration and energy of love that we carry within ourselves, and that we need to share that with everybody if this planet is ever going to find peace.
Mm. And she knew too that the distribution of a book would be so much wide. I mean, you're already touching the lives and changing the lives and affecting people on a one by one basis with your clients, with the people that come see you for a session. But
Right.
she knew that in this form, in a printed, and then now not only with a printed book, but then it's digital. It just reaches so many more people in different countries and all of that. So, and all of that took place in such a short amount of time, which is divinely. It's all divine. I believe that so much of what happens in our lives is all divine timing, and we may not know. It's like, well, why did this happen to me? Why did so and so hurt, break my heart into a million pieces, or why did this? It's all there is a divine purpose to it. And
Absolutely.
and it's when we step into it with that faith and gratitude. That's the other thing, is being grateful for those beautiful things that haven't happened yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the ways that, she teaches how to pray, because this is really her book, okay? The words that are in the book are her words. I didn't paraphrase them. I wrote exactly what I was hearing. And one of the ways she says to pray is to pray in pure faith, and that is by saying, thank you, God, that, if you're looking for a job, say, thank you, God, that I got this great new job. So even
Yeah.
before you see it, you're putting those words out there saying, I am worthy. And I know that with your hand in this will all happen.
And
So,
and one of the points that you bring up too, that that Mary has illustrated to you, is that prayer, it's powerful.
beyond powerful communication with God. She prays with us. She's saying, you don't pray to me. You don't pray to me. I'll pray with you. I'd love to pray with you. I want to be by your side. But prayers are answered by God. God is the only one. So, there are prophets among us. Okay, there are saints among us from every religion. And then when they pass, you can talk to them, you can ask them to pray with you, but it's truly God. That's the one who answers the prayer. And I just said he, but again, God has no agenda. No one has ever seen the face of God. He's been, depicted as a man with a long white beard. That's just, because we have egos. We need to personify based upon who we are. But God never had a face. Mary had a face. Mary was a real live person. In the book, she talks about the pain of losing a child. She's real. She's familiar. She lived with the ups and downs of this life. It wasn't perfect for her. And she also says that she wasn't perfect. There were things that, she obviously had animosity toward the people who tortured her son, and it took her a long time to get over that. Yet she had pure faith in God.
Mm. And now, when you speak with her, so I want to know some of the questions that maybe you had, or whatever you feel like sharing with our listeners. But you must have had some big questions for Mary, if not in particular on your own life, but I mean just about life in general. What were some of the things that you had requested of her or asked of her that you were, let's say, surprised by?
Well, I was surprised by a lot of things she said. One of the things that I asked her is that, about her marriage with Joseph, and, whether or not, she had other children. And so in some Christian religions, they believe she did, and in others, they don't believe she did. I was raised Catholic. We were told that she only had Jesus. And she told me that she loved Joseph, and they had an intimate relationship because that's how you express love, and that she did have other children. There were other children around her. She talks about her relationship with Elizabeth, who was her older cousin, and the relationship she had with her, and how she lost Elizabeth, and the pain of losing someone, what it feels like to lose someone. I asked her if there could ever be peace in this world, and she said, absolutely, but we need to change our ways. And then she answered questions about, I had questions about heaven and hell, and what constitutes a marriage, that sort of thing. And her answers were very explicit. Like she didn't leave anything out. And yet she always went back to keep it simple, that we complicate way too much. Way
Right.
too much.
We do as human beings, always.
We always do.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the revelations that you found out about heaven and hell, or yeah, and what's in between, supposedly purgatory, which I never understood completely. But what were her statements on heaven and hell?
Well, she said that when we pass, we go to this place where we have to view like a movie of our lives, okay? And we see the good, the bad, the beautiful, and the ugly. And if we're good people, and we're not perfect people, we see it. We may be in a little bit of pain about some of the things we did intentionally to hurt other people, because that's like the greatest no is to intentionally hurt somebody. But hell is not the fire, because your soul can't burn. It's not, again, we've taken this notion of we're going to be in our body and it's going to hurt. It's not. It's an energy. You can't hurt energy that way. But this energy has feelings, okay? So we never lose the emotions. And so, watching that movie, if we were really bad, like a Hitler, okay, or Osama bin Laden, where there's an intention to hurt, we have to watch that movie over and over again. And that's the burning of the soul. That's the fire of the soul. It's torture.
To witness what you have done,
right?
Right.
And then, with when you're done watching that movie, and by the way, Hitler is still not done, because there's still people that are hurting because of him. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Families that, can't get out of the way of, their families, being Holocaust victims, or whatever it is, and the world at large. And it's certainly, so Osama bin Laden's there because there was an intent to hurt people, and he had other agendas as well, according to her. But in any case, once you get out of that place, the soul goes through a learning experience, learning the things that it didn't learn in life and what it had to accomplish, and maybe the things that were missed, and also the things that were good, that were accomplished. And the soul has a choice of whether or not to come back here, whether or not to reincarnate. The soul wants to reincarnate for the most part, to be as perfect in this love, because it wants to be in perfect union with the big love, the big kahuna love,
With
okay,
God,
so to speak.
God love.
But we always have a choice. We have free will, here as human beings, and we have free will, as souls on the other side as well, which is just a dimension right in front of us. So, it's not in the clouds, it's really right in front of us. That's why, people like me, I'm able to tap into, people on the other side, because it's really just in front of me.
So, and that's my next question. When you have clients who come to see you, and I'm sure you do this as well. Do you do this as well on Skype, so they don't have to be there physically?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've read people from all over the world, telephone, Skype, you know.
So
Anyway, get to
when
me.
you work with them,
Mhm.
you now you pick up some now I know there's different clairvoyant things that happen to people. Some people hear, see,
Mhm.
some people smell, some
Right.
people taste. I'd like to just, if you can just explain to our listeners a little bit about your process or what happens when someone sits down. Let's say I'm sitting down in front of you and I'm asking for a session. I'm wondering, wanting to know what you're picking up from me, what's important for me to be maybe focusing in on, or if there's messages from my relatives who have passed over, someone who's loved me. How? What do you do? Do you tune into my guides, or do you just go to Mary? What do you do in that process?
Oh, Mary's always with me. And I don't tune into your guides either. What I do before each person comes to me, I pray and I meditate about them. And so I start feeling their energy and the energy of their loved ones before they're even in my office. Okay. Then they come into my office, and by virtue of crossing over the threshold to my office, they're saying, I want you to help me in some way. Okay. I'm allowing you, I'm permitting you to bring through what I need brought through, for my life. Okay. And so, that's just what happens. And then they sit down. I need to move as I am, connecting to spirit. So if somebody is sitting across from me, I have a pad in front of me and I'm writing. When I'm on a stage, I pace back and forth. I need to be moving. And that's not uncommon with mediums. Now, I have all the clairs, like what you were talking about before is clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentient. I have all the clairs going on. So I will smell things. And the spirits will bring things into, that they like or don't like. So like this afternoon, a man smelled like Old Spice to me, and I said to his daughter, I don't know, there's a man here, he smells like Old Spice. And she said, that's my father. They'll bring through things that, with any luck, they can be validated. Sometimes they tell me things that I can convey that can be validated. Sometimes I just know and I open up my mouth and out it all comes. So sometimes I see them, sometimes I don't see them, but I see someone who from my own life that resembles them. So, I'll be describing, one of my fourth grade teacher, because that's what I need to describe to have the person across from me understand who is coming through and what I'm seeing.
Right. Correct. So, like, if it's someone's let's say there's someone's grandmother, and they, every day after school they would make sure that they got some home baked cookies. That would
Hmm.
probably be something that might come up, so that you could say, I don't know, I'm smelling fresh baked cookies. Then
That
that person would go, oh my God, that's grandma.
right. And sometimes I see their jobs,
Hmm.
like I see what they're doing. Okay, so there's somebody around you. Okay.
Okay.
I feel like he's across from another man, and he's telling me the man is broke the law, did something with the law, and in some way he keeps the person on path. Do you know who that is?
This is someone that's alive, or someone
Yeah.
that's passed.
Hmm.
Someone that's passed.
Yeah, he keeps someone. Who's Dennis?
Oh, wow, that's my dad.
Okay, is what did he do for a living?
He was a probation officer.
Okay, that's what he's telling. He's saying, ask her what I did for a living. Um, yeah.
That's my dad. Yeah.
And who's Peggy?
Wow. Wow. Anna, you're amazing. That's his wife.
Okay, is she still living?
Yes.
Do you hear from her?
No.
Because he's saying he understands. Okay, he understands, but he wants you to know that he loves you.
Mm.
Don't ever doubt that he loves you, regardless of whatever happened. He loves you.
Wow. I feel that. I feel that. Yeah, he's one in this lifetime. There was quite a bit of separation.
Hmm.
I think he
Feeling.
was, yeah, I think he was a troubled soul, but I forgive him, and I want him to know that I forgive him every single thing that ever happened as a child. I forgive him because I know that he was hurting.
Yeah, and he knows that you understood, and that you understand. He wishes other people did as well.
Mm. Mm. Powerful. Wow, Anna, that you just tapped right into it. Is when someone from the other side comes is I guess urging you to say something or just to
Mhm.
speak out. Does it come as like one? There is one voice. Are there several people that are like lining up because they're like, oh my
Uh,
goodness, she's talking to Christine. I want to get in here.
Sometimes, sometimes, one, I'm going to call them people instead of spirit. One person will dominate the reading, and maybe want to control it because they have more to say, and they, or to put closure on it, or whatever it is. And then other times, there's a lot of people coming through, and sometimes people, that you didn't necessarily know in your life. Your great great grandmother could come through that of her, but you don't really know her. They can come through as well, and often they're pushing for people to like figure out who they are, like do a genealogy or a family tree or whatever it is, so that that's the way you keep them alive. Otherwise, without talking about them, without knowing who they are, they don't exist on this plane anymore. And they want you to know that they're around you and they're with you. Not just
Mhm.
by virtue of bloodline is important, but also by virtue of what's familiar. You're familiar to them, and they're familiar to you because you come from, the same family.
And there's the energetic connection as well that
Absolutely.
that you
Oh, the
have.
energy. When I read for people that are adopted, I will feel, their adopted parents as well as their biological parents. Because, it's the energy of parent. It's the energy, that connects us more than anything else.
My question too is, and especially as we're children, but I mean, as well as when we're adults, we're very close to our pets.
Mhm.
I'm curious to find out if have you ever felt the energy of a pet of
Absolutely.
because that's a
Yes.
soul, right? That's a soul that reincarnated perhaps as
Yes.
a pet, but in another lifetime, maybe was a human being that we shared a lifetime with. So
Okay, that I haven't felt, but
okay,
I know that that's something that the Buddhists believe in, and so, I can't attest to that because I have never felt it. I know people that believe in that. That's just not what I guess has ever come my way. To maybe,
but
maybe
you felt a
tomorrow
pet.
will.
You felt like a
I do
family
feel
pet.
pets.
Okay.
I feel pets in spirit. That I feel.
Wow.
When people say, "Oh, dogs don't have soul," that's the most ridiculous thing.
Yes.
Dogs love unconditionally and only want to be loved back. Cats. My experience is with dogs, so I speak about dogs. But I feel cats coming through. I feel birds coming through. I'll be doing a reading with someone and saying, "There's a bird flying around here. Who had." This parakeet that got let out the window, that kind of thing. Oh, no,
Wow.
I,
Really?
I feel it all. Yeah, I do. So, don't ever think that your animals are not around you because they are.
Oh no,
They
I
love
I
you.
I do. I feel my Snoopy with me very often, and that usually accompanies my grandmother, who I was extremely close with. She's actually I feel her presence around me. I feel her very much that, and especially if I'm ever sad or confused or anything like that, boom, she comes. And that's kind of the question too is when we want to connect with their energy, is it true too that all we need to do is think of them, or should we say their name out loud, or should we do a prayer to them? What are your suggestions on that, other than booking an appointment with you because you're an amazing psychic?
No, I think that people, and Mary says this in the book, there's two parts of prayer. There's the active part where you're saying the words, okay? And then there's the passive part where you're listening, and we call that meditation. Okay. If you sit in meditation, you put an intention out there, and you just sit in meditation and open yourself up. It's you take your mind out of the equation, you take your processing mind out, and you become a hollow bone, and you let them in that way. And so you just put it out there. I want to feel you, I want to talk to you. Now at that moment in meditation, it may not be what's perfect and right for you, but you may get into the car and put on the radio, and on comes either their favorite song or maybe a message for you. You have to be awakened to this. That's it. And so many people say, I don't want to make it up. Okay, sure, you don't want to make it up, but you also don't want to discount what you're feeling and see because you think you're making it up. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that's the hard line. I just tell people, just do it, just do it. And by the way, when Mary was talking about in the book, when she talks about prayer and meditation, she says, words said out loud, once you say them, they're yours. That's really strong, but you don't have to do it that way. But what you have to do is not, be all pious, and all praying, and then go out and not live in the prayer. It's active prayer. It's how you live your life. Okay. That's
Yes.
really important. So you can pray and pray and pray and not be a good person. And so that's not gonna, you're not crossing your T's there. You got to go out and you have to be good to other people as well, and open and helpful. You have to be in service, to humankind in some way.
Well, and when you, as you find out too, as I know Anna, that when you are of service to others, when you open yourself up to be of assistance to other people, to help them, and it needs to be a gut reaction of like, if you see somebody in need, it's like, oh my goodness, of course I'm going to stop and help them.
Right.
But you, as you know, and as I know, you don't do it for this reason, but as you know, it comes back to you 10,000 times, just even the
Right.
experience of being able to assist someone. The gift is, it's not a payback of the money. Oh, I gave a poor person, some money. It's not getting that money back. It's what you gain in just the giving of that, and giving somebody, the opportunity to have a decent meal or a place to stay, those type of things, and
Well,
giving someone relief.
it opens up your heart, which is the center of love, and it makes you feel good, And you're right, like you don't do it just to feel good, because then it's not going to make you feel good. But when you do it, and you do it because your heart is in it, it brings great joy, and the love is returned. Whether
Yes.
it's returned by a smile or a thank you, or just a feeling of, the person knows you're helping, or the group knows you're helping, whatever it is, it always, you always get it back. It always comes right back at you.
I want to just remind my listeners, if you're just tuning in, my guest today is Anna Raimondi, and she is the author of an incredible brand new book, Conversations with Mary, Messages of Love, Healing, Hope, and Unity. And you can rush out and get a copy if you wish. Go to Amazon. Also, I want to throw out your website address as well, Anna.
Sure. My website is annaraimondi.com. It's ANNARAIMONDI.com. I'm also on Facebook under Anna Raimondi, and I try to do a Facebook Live once a week or every other week. And they're all, you tune in, you can ask questions. It's kind of fun for me.
Brilliant.
And and I think it's good for everybody who's listening.
And do you have is there any speaking events that you have coming up that you want to announce?
I do. I will be at the Mystic Bookstore in Malibu, and I will be at a couple of salons that are hosting me, and they will. And unfortunately, wait a minute. No, I don't have them in front of me.
We can have them go to your website and find that out.
Yeah,
What a great idea that is, too.
Yeah, I'm going to post, and that'll all be posted on Facebook as well, and it'll be on my website. It probably isn't posted yet because it's in February.
Oh, that's fantastic. So if people also want to, if they want to get in touch with you, they can go through the website, annaraimondi.com, and they can get in touch with you about, of course, about doing a private session, or about doing a house party, kind of, which is a great idea. My question too is, and now with because you are amazingly spot on, and I spoke briefly too with the wonderful Donna Schumann, who's an amazing publicist, and she was like, she could not stop raving about you, about how, and in our business, we talk to a lot of different people, and they've got, and it's like, yeah, that's pretty close. It can be kind of a little vague, but she said you were absolutely spot on, and she was so excited about having you come on this show. And I'm curious, because of how really and how detailed you are, have you been approached by anyone, let's say, who perhaps maybe like a lost case file type thing? Someone has either disappeared or something happened to a loved one, and they hire you almost like a detective to find out what happened. Has that ever happened in your last few years?
It has, but I really don't like doing it. Like
They're
I
painful.
won't do the lost person thing. The one thing that I gave into doing is in a town around here in Connecticut. There was a man who they couldn't find, and they asked me if I would be involved with that, and I said, no, I don't do that. I really don't do that. I don't like it. It's too painful. There's other people who do that. There's people who work with police departments, and they do that, and I didn't want to do it, and they just couldn't find him. And finally, somebody called me and said, Anna, you got to help. And I said, okay, he's under the leaves by the side of the road. He's covered in leaves. Okay, you're going to find him. You're very close. And they found him within a half hour. However I described it, I was able to describe where he was, and they found him. But there was so much pain in pulling that in that I don't like doing that. It's enough to deal with people, with other people coming through, talking about the painful things that they've done, like sexual abuse or physical abuse or emotional abuse or abandonment or anything like that that affects us. That's as deep, that's as much pain as I want to go to. But there's also within that pain, a place where the person is saying either there's no excuses, but let me explain, or please forgive me, you don't have to forget, that kind of thing, or and I love you, or I've always been with you, or something that eases the pain for this person who's sitting in front of me who's been carrying it around for a lot of years. You don't get that when you're finding someone who's dead,
No,
on the side of the road.
Yeah, I would think that the resonant, whatever the energy that is around that would be quite difficult to and quite painful for you.
Yeah.
Do you because you're tapped in so much? This just sounds like a crazy question, but like, let's say you're at at a movie theater, or at a grocery store. Are you being completely or constantly like bombarded by energies around other people? Are you able to kind of focus in on just say, okay, I'm just here to get a loaf of bread and I'm gone?
That is the most asked question of me.
Really?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, and it's interesting because I have a contract with the universe, okay? Except Mary. Mary can come through whenever she wants. Except that I really appreciate it when she doesn't wake me up at night, which she did a lot during the writing of this book. She'd wake me up. She would give me an answer. I have to come downstairs. I have to type it. I have to put myself back to bed, go to sleep, and then wake up in the morning and put a question to it. She's the only one that's allowed to do that. My contract with the spirit world is I'll help them, but they cannot interfere with my sleep and they cannot interfere with my private life. Okay. Now, does that take them out of the equation totally when I'm in a grocery store? Not really. Sometimes I can feel things from people. Sometimes it's people recognizing me and they're pulling on my energy. So I feel as though someone is literally pulling me in their direction, when I'm just trying to figure out like how to buy a cantaloupe, and that's probably, and I'm very, and often when I feel like someone pulling at me and they're close enough to me, I'll turn around and say, do you know how to buy a cantaloupe? Like, how do you know one's good or bad? And it kind of balances the energy between us. I do see spirit in places like that. Like I can't go to a mall. It just kills me. And anyone who's an empath, understand, like there's that depressing feeling. There's a lot of depressed people in a mall. And it makes me tired. I can't. So like if I go to a mall, like I'm in one store and out. That's it.
Well, I would think that malls. I would also think that places where there's a lot of emotion, like a hospital, where it's beautiful because you're welcoming in a new baby, or it's sad because someone you love took their last breath at the hospital. Or there's some trauma. I would think that at hospitals. Maybe courthouses as well, but not that you spend a lot of time in courthouses. But I would think that in those areas that there would be quite.
I never do.
Right, but there would be quite a bit of also residual energy within those walls. Not to mention
hospitals are big.
Yeah.
Hospitals, funeral homes.
Oh yeah.
Any place where people are dying, absolutely. Their stories linger. It's there. I feel it in places like that as well. And those are a little bit more difficult to ignore unless, I'm in a place where I'm visiting somebody in my own family who's going through something and I'm really focused on them. But if I'm like visiting like maybe someone I don't know that well, I tend not to visit hospitals. I tend to try to see people when they come home from the hospitals because it kind of makes me a little crazy. And, it's just not a good thing for me. In, wakes and things like that, I go for family members and close friends, but, to pay respects to the living. Because when someone dies, you're not paying respects to them. You're paying respects to their family.
Exactly. Exactly. Isn't that so true? I always say that when I go, I don't want a sad funeral. I don't want everybody crying. I really don't. Because I will be free. I will be absolutely free
Yep.
of this this body and be unlimited. And I really want everybody just to party and dance. Really,
Yeah. I'd like that too. I want a few tears though.
really, you want somebody to cry with you?
Yeah, just a few, not a lot. I tell my husband,
Yeah.
I mean, do the cheapest thing you can. Get me cremated. I don't know, put me in an urn. Whatever you want to do. And he says, "Oh my God, no, no." He said, "Don't you dare do that to me." Why? He's like, "Because I may need this body again." I'm like, "What? You need this body again? Okay, you will not need your bodies again. Okay, you will not. Okay, your soul goes on. It's healthy. It's not riddled with disease or anything else. It goes on, and your bodies turn to dust.
Your
They're
soul is
gone.
immortal. It goes
Right.
on and on and on. And that's a concept that's kind of hard for most people, Anna.
Hmm.
I don't think that it's hard for them to kind of grasp the fact that we do go on and on and on and on.
Yes, I think people have a very hard time with that because they can only conceptualize one life. Okay. I became a hypnotherapist a number of years ago. And so I've done a lot of past life regressions. And it's been really interesting what comes out through them of past lives. And I always tell people, before you do this, figure out why you want to do this. How is this going to help you with your life? Because there's always something that you're looking for. And it's interesting that you get something else sometimes in these past life regressions. Different lives come through, but they help you with the life you're living now. So the body that goes away, but the soul goes on and on and on, and it teaches us. There are more evolved souls, there are older souls, and there are souls that aren't quite as old, but we're all teaching each other.
Exactly. Exactly. We're all teaching each other, and I love, I just love the way in which when you were talking about the book and conversations with Mary, you were talking about, of course, the subtitle is Messages of Love, Healing, Hope, and Unity. Let's talk about hope and unity because we are here to help one another. We are here to raise each other up and support one another as much as we can. Can you give us a few of those, maybe some of those messages that you got from Mary on the subject of hope and unity? Because I right now a lot of people are they're looking outside in the outside world and they're seeing some stuff that's not so pleasant, or they're really there's fear. Fear is being generated. So.
And fear is the absolute opposite of love. So fear, obviously does not come from God. Okay, fear comes from the negative energies on this planet that are coming through to us. What Mary says is, if you believe that you are these creatures of love, and you believe that that this God who made us is here to help us, that you should have hope that that this world can be a better place, that someday maybe there can be heaven on earth, but we all have to turn from that. And the unity is a big thing. I mean, you look at this country, we are not unified right now. And it's it's just, it's crazy that the hate crimes, all these things that are going on, because evil gets very frightened when people start turning to the good. When people start saying, I want to do something to raise consciousness, or I'm on, a peace march for this, or I'm doing that, evil doesn't like that. And so the fear is instilled, and it's like, it's contagious, and Mary's saying, no, 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 it doesn't have to be. Recognize what's going on and don't jump on that bandwagon. There's nothing to be afraid of, if you put it into, the hands of God and unify with each other to do that, so do things with other people, to raise, the vibration of the world. Okay. Do things that, bring you into that place where you can feel, wow, I believe so much that there can be, there can be a better tomorrow, because there can be, but we have to move, we have to get, like, I think one of the purposes of this book, for her, is to put it into enough hands in enough different places, that people can start, doing it within themselves, their communities, who they're with, and, to be models for other people.
Mm. I so agree with that, and it seems to, and she might, and maybe she has touched on this with you, about the difference between religion and love, or I call it the spirituality of love, which is in its truest form, if you want, when you're talking about Christianity, really what it's supposed to be all about. But then, as we saw, that there was, sort of this takeover, this religious dogma, the takeover of, Jesus and his story, and then kind of someone, an organization kind of co-opted it. We saw what the Catholic Church had done, for so long, things that were not very Christ-like, obviously. But I'm wondering if she has spoken to you about the difference between religion, or these entities who have taken on Christ's, his image, used his being, used his pain and suffering, and maybe they've done it for their self-gratification or enrichment. But has she talked to you about the difference too between religion and spirituality?
Yes. If you're part of a religion, you should have spirituality, but you don't need religion to have spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
It's the feeling of, divinity. It's the feeling of connecting to God, heaven, whatever you believe in, the higher power. And there is a difference. She also talks about, what humankind has done to something that, to these good things, and how it has mangled. And a lot of it has to do with ego, narcissism, being the right one true religion. And I said to her, well, what is the right one true religion? And she said, anyone that promotes love. Any religion that does not promote love cannot be of God. It has to first and foremost promote love. Religion has a place for some people because it's community. It's where they can share with other people, what their beliefs are, and discuss with other people if that's what you want to do. She's not saying that's a horrible thing, but she did say that church is right outside your door. Look at nature.
Mm-hmm.
Look at God's creation. That's church. It doesn't get better than that. It really doesn't. Look at the mountains, the streams. Look at the sky if you live in a city. Look at the sun. That's God's creation. The stars at night. This was all created by God. And this is our church. That's our church. Again, if you want to belong to a religion, that's okay too. But it has to extend beyond the walls of the temple of the church.
And as long as the message is love.
As long as the message is love.
Because
that's right.
Yeah, that's been my understanding, that God is love, not this vengeful. I was when I was younger, I grew up in kind of a rough neighborhood, so I went to a private school. It was a Christian school, but it was to protect me because it was a really rough neighborhood. This Christian school was a very strict Baptist, and it was very much, they casted, they judged everybody else, right? Judged the gays, judged this person, judged that person, don't dance, all of these things. And it was this idea of an angry God, of a vengeful God, of a God that would punish you, and that never jived with me. I just didn't. It never clicked with me that that's the God that created us, and all of these beautiful, the variety of people that we are, and all of nature.
And what you're talking about is coming from pure fear.
Yes.
Don't dance.
Yes.
Don't dance, because if you dance, you're going to get pregnant.
Yeah.
Never quite understood that one.
And I grew up in the 70s, Anna, in L.A. That's all we did was disco dancing and the hustle.
Right. I know. I grew up in the 70s too.
We had
in New
great
York,
music.
Okay?
Oh, you were in New York. So, yeah. So we had great music.
Right.
How could you not dance?
Be afraid of people who are different, because the fear. I have to hate you because I don't understand you, and because I don't understand you, I'm going to judge you. It's fear. It's lack of self. people that are and organizations that are comfortable with who they are and what they believe in, especially religious organizations, shouldn't be saying any of that. It is what it is. This is the world. When I asked Mary what constitutes a marriage, and she said, wherever there's love. So I said, well, the question was, well, what if it's a man and a man, or a woman and a woman? And she said, wherever there's love.
Wherever there's love. Yes.
By the way, I have my list of things that I'll be doing if you want them.
Yes, please.
Okay. On February 15th, no, let me go back. On February 1st, I will be at the Vero Beach Book Center in Vero Beach. On February 15th, I will be at Tattered Cover in Aspen Grove, Colorado. On February 17th, I will be at Book Passage in Sausalito, California. And then I will be on February 21st, I will be at a house event that will be posted on my website. I will be at Mystic Journeys on February 22nd, and that's in Venice, California. I will be at Liberate Hollywood on February 24th. And then I'm back in Miami on, let's see, what date is that? That is March 20th.
And you are very, very busy. So that's why I want to encourage people to check out Anna's website or like her on Facebook. It's Anna Raimondi, ANNARAIMONDI. You can do AnnaRaimondi.com if you want to go to the website. Her latest book is Conversations with Mary, Messages of Love, Healing, Hope, and Unity for Everyone. Mary, before we got a few minutes left in the broadcast, and I wanted to know if and I'm not going to I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I wanted to know if you were able to just to tap into Mary right now, if she had any final words to leave with our listeners, anything that she's feeling that should be said right now, or any other guides, if there's any other guides that you feel that need to be spoken
she's here. She's very happy that they're listening. She's very happy that you are open to her voice as well. She wants you to come, and she wants you to speak with her. She wants people, all the listeners, to speak with her. She wrote through me because she wanted to touch everyone, and everybody gets touched, in a different way by her words. She wants the word spread, and she wants people to have hope.
That's beautiful. Okay, I promise I'll be talking to Mary tonight.
Okay.
I'll be making that phone call. That's the universal phone call from my heart. Anna Raimondi, I want to thank you so very much for your time and for all of the great work that you do. It's just amazing. And I want to have you back on. So if you have another book, or you have something else that's coming up, or if you have any idea for a particular program you want to dive into, the subject matter on Out of the Box Radio, I would love to have you back on.
Okay, and think of me as well.
Okay. Thank you so very much, Anna Raimondi. Again, she is an incredible grief counselor, spiritual advisor, and fantastic medium. How she tapped into my dad's name and his wife's name, I do not know. She is available. You can find out more by going to AnnaRaimondi.com, AnnaRaimondi.com, and grab that book, Conversations with Mary. Thank you again so much, Anna, and I want to thank the listeners, too, for tuning in this week. And I want to remind you, as always, you can find out more about Out of the Box Radio. You can actually subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or iHeartRadio, or you can also subscribe to the show on YouTube. And until next week, I want to remind you to always think outside of the box. Bye for now.